Commander Krikstal stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the blue planet grow larger on the screen. His 3 ships had traveled for many days to reach this quiet corner of the galaxy. The sensors showed a world with the right mix of gases. For life. Better yet, the signals coming from the planet were weak and simple. Perfect, he thought. Another young species to guide. The Zephyrian fleet had done this many times before. They would arrive at a new world, make contact with the local species, and slowly bring them into the galactic family. It was always the same pattern. The young species would be amazed by their technology. They would be grateful for guidance. They would accept protection, but something felt different this time. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the USS Defiant. The ship moved smoothly through space near Jupiter. It was a routine patrol, or so he thought. Then the sensors began to beep. "Captain," called Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her station. 3 unknown ships approaching from the outer system. Jake leaned forward. "Size and configuration?" "Large, sir. Maybe twice our size." "Design is completely unknown." This was it. The moment humans had wondered about for years. Were they alone in the universe? The answer was flying toward them right now. "Signal Earth Command," Jake ordered. "Tell them we have visitors." On Earth, Admiral Paul Bennett received the message in his office. He had been waiting for this day his entire career. The protocols were already in place. Dr. Lisa Grant and her team had spent years preparing for first contact. "Patch me through to the Defiant," Paul said. Jake's face appeared on the screen. "Admiral, the ships are maintaining distance. No hostile moves yet." "Good. Follow the protocols exactly. Dr. Grant is on her way to Luna Base. Keep them talking until she arrives." The Zephyrian ships slowed as they approached the human vessel. Krikstal studied the strange ship on his screen. It was smaller than his ships, but something about its design made him uneasy. The hull was smooth and dark. Weapons ports were hidden, but visible to his trained eye. "Send the greeting signal," he ordered. The message was simple. Mathematical sequences that any spacefaring species would understand. Prime numbers, then basic equations. It was the universal language of intelligence. Amy Rodriguez watched the patterns appear on her screen. "Captain, it's mathematics, basic sequences. Respond with the same pattern, then add the next logical sequence," Jake said. The response came. Quickly, both sides continued the mathematical conversation, each adding more complex problems. Krikstal was impressed. The humans were learning fast. "Open a channel," he commanded. The first words between humans and aliens were simple. "Greetings. We are the Zephyrian people. We come in peace." Jake took a deep breath. History was being made. "Welcome to our system. We are humans from Earth. We also come in peace." The conversation continued for hours. Both sides were careful and polite. The Zephyrians asked basic questions about human technology and society. The humans asked about the galaxy and other species, but Krikstal noticed things that worried him. The human ship's power readings were higher than expected. Their communication system was more advanced than it should be. When he asked about their technology, the humans gave vague answers. Dr. Lisa Grant arrived at Luna Base and took over the conversation. She was calm and professional, but she also noticed the aliens' strange reactions. They seemed surprised by human capabilities. "We would like to invite you to visit our world," she said. "We can learn much from each other." Krikstal agreed, but he was troubled. This was not going as planned. These humans were supposed to be primitive. They should be amazed by his ships and technology. Instead, they acted like equals. He sent a coded message to the Galactic Council. "Species more advanced than expected. Recommend caution." The response came quickly. "Continue as planned." All young species seem advanced at first, but Krikstal knew better. He had made contact with dozens of species. This felt different. Ambassador Helen Carter welcomed the alien delegation to Earth. She was dressed in her finest uniform, and she smiled warmly. But she also noticed how the aliens studied everything around them. They were not here just to say, "Hello, we are honored by your visit," she said. "Humanity has always wondered if we were alone." Crickstal bowed slightly. "We are here to welcome you to the galactic community. There is much we can teach you." The word teach made Helen pause. It sounded less like an offer and more like a statement of superiority. The first day of meetings went well on the surface. The aliens shared basic information about the galaxy. They spoke of peace and cooperation. They offered to help humanity develop better technology. But Colonel Steve Parker, watching from the security center, noticed how the aliens reacted to human technology. They were not impressed. They were concerned. "Amy," he called to Lieutenant Rodriguez, who was still serving as translator. "What exactly are they saying about our technology?" Amy frowned as she listened to the alien conversations. "They keep using words that translate to unexpected and concerning. They seem worried about our defensive capabilities." That night, as the aliens rested in their quarters, Crickstal sent another message to the Council. Humans possess technology that rivals our own. Military posture is more advanced than any species we have encountered. Request immediate guidance. The response was swift and cold. Impossible. Continue integration protocols. Report any resistance. But Crickstal knew what he was seeing. These humans were not the primitive species they had expected to find. They were something else entirely. As he looked out at the stars from his window, Crickstal felt a chill. For the first time in his long career, he wondered if the Zephyrians had made a terrible mistake. Tomorrow would bring more meetings, more conversations, and more revelations. But tonight, both sides went to sleep, knowing that nothing would ever be the same. The galaxy was about to change forever. The Luna Base conference room was filled with tension. Dr. Kevin Walsh sat across from the Zephyrian delegation, trying to understand what they were really saying. The aliens spoke of the galaxy as if it belonged to them. The Eternal Confederation has maintained peace for over 10,000 years, Crickstal explained. We guide younger species into the galactic family. It is our duty to protect and teach. Dr. Walsh nodded politely, but something bothered him. The way Crickstal said guide and protect sounded more like control and dominate. How many species are part of this confederation? Walsh asked. Over 3,000, Crickstal replied with pride, all living in harmony under our guidance. They. Number shocked Walsh. 3,000 species, all following the same rules, all under alien control. It sounded less like a family and more like an empire. On Earth, Colonel Steve Parker was having his own concerns. His intelligence team had been analyzing the alien technology. The results were disturbing. "Sir," said Lieutenant Julie Hayes, "their weapons are actually less advanced than ours. Their ships are bigger, but they use older technology." Steve frowned. "That doesn't make sense. If they're so advanced, why are their weapons weaker?" "Maybe they don't need better weapons," Julie suggested. "Maybe they've never faced real opposition." The thought made Steve's blood run cold. A galactic empire that had never been challenged. Thousands of species that had never fought back. It painted a very different picture of the peaceful Confederation. Back on Luna Base, Council Speaker Threndak arrived with a much larger alien fleet. Unlike Crickstal's small group, this was clearly a show of force. 12 massive ships took position. Around the moon. Ambassador Helen Carter greeted the new arrivals with forced politeness. "We welcome you to our system, Council Speaker." Threndak was larger than the other aliens, with more elaborate clothing and several armed guards. "We come to formalize humanity's place in the galactic order. Your integration period is complete. The word integration made Helen's skin crawl. They were talking about humanity like it was being absorbed, not welcomed. We appreciate your offer, she said carefully, but humanity values its independence. We're interested in friendship, not integration. Threndak expression changed. His large eyes narrowed, and his guards stepped closer. Independence is not an option for young species. The galaxy is too dangerous. You need our protection. It was the first direct threat, and everyone in the room felt that Dr. Chris Johnson was giving the aliens a tour of the medical facilities when everything changed. He was proud to show off humanity's latest achievements in medicine and technology. This is our nanomedicine lab, he explained. We can repair cellular damage at the molecular level. The aliens stopped walking. They stared at the equipment with expressions that looked like fear. Nanomedicine? One of them whispered. That technology was lost centuries ago. Chris was confused. Lost? We just developed it 5 years ago. The aliens exchanged worried looks. They spoke in their own language, but their tone was clearly alarmed. Engineer. Maria Lopez was having a similar experience in the power plant. She was explaining humanity's fusion reactors when the aliens suddenly became very quiet. The efficiency rating is 93%, she said proudly. We hope to reach 95% next year. The lead alien scientist made a choking sound. 93%? That's impossible. Our best reactors only reach 70%. Maria shrugged. We had some breakthroughs in magnetic containment. It wasn't that hard once we figured out the math. The alien looked like he was going to be sick. That evening, General Frank Williams hosted a dinner for the alien delegation. He was trying to be friendly and welcoming, but the conversation kept taking strange turns. Earth is beautiful, Threndak said, but it seems crowded. How many humans live here? About 8 billion, Frank replied. The alien delegation fell silent. They stared at him in shock. 8 billion? Threndak repeated. On one world? Yes, though we've been expanding. We have colonies on 12 star systems now. The silence stretched longer. Finally, Krikstal spoke in a shaky voice. 12 star systems? When did you achieve interstellar travel? About 30 years ago, Frank said. We've been busy. The aliens looked terrified. Later, Frank would learn why. Most Confederation species had populations of a few million. It took them centuries to colonize even one other world. Humanity had spread across 12 star systems in just 30 years. Captain Nancy Bell was discussing the Mars terraforming project when she noticed the aliens were no longer listening. They were staring at their communication devices with growing panic. Is something wrong? She asked. Threndak looked up with wide eyes. You're terraforming Mars? Changing an entire planet's atmosphere? Well, yes, Nancy said. It's a long process, but we're making good progress. The atmosphere is already 20% thicker than it was 50 years ago. The aliens began talking rapidly in their own language. Nancy didn't understand the words, but she could tell they were arguing about something important. Dr. Ryan Foster was the one who made the discovery that changed everything. He was an archaeologist who studied ancient human settlements. While preparing for the alien visit, he had been reviewing his research. Look at this, he told his assistant, showing her a star map. We found evidence of ancient human settlements on 17 worlds. All of them are in Confederation space. That's impossible, his assistant said. The aliens told us those worlds were uninhabited when they found them. That's what I thought too, Ryan said. But the evidence is clear. Humans were living on these worlds thousands of years ago. The implications were staggering. If humans had been in space for thousands of years, what happened to them? Where did they go? And why didn't modern humans know about it? Ryan immediately sent his findings to Earth Command. Within hours, Admiral Paul Bennett was on the phone with every major world leader. "The situation has changed," he told them. "The aliens haven't been telling us the truth. We need to reconsider everything." Back on Luna Base, the alien delegation was in crisis. Threndak was sending urgent messages to the Confederation capital. The humans were not what they seemed. "They have technology we lost centuries ago," he reported. "Their population is larger than most Confederation worlds combined. They've colonized 12 systems without our knowledge. And now we're finding evidence of ancient human settlements throughout the galaxy." The response from the Confederation was swift and terrifying. "Implement containment protocols immediately. This species must be controlled before they become a threat to galactic stability." But it was too late for containment. Humanity was already too advanced, too spread out, and too independent to be easily controlled. As the night ended, both sides knew the truth. The aliens had come expecting to find a primitive species they could dominate. Instead, they had found something that might be more powerful than they were. The friendly first contact was over. Now the real game was about to begin. High Counselor Vexthara stood in the great chamber on Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Eternal Confederation. The massive room was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, all talking at once. The topic was the same everywhere: the humans' order. Vexthara called out, her voice echoing through the chamber. "We will discuss this threat systematically." The word threat made many council members uncomfortable. The Confederation had not faced a real threat in over 1,000 years. They had grown comfortable with their power, used to being the strongest force in the galaxy. "The reports from the human system are disturbing," Vexthara continued. "This species possesses technology that rivals our own. Their military capacity is unknown, but appears significant. Most concerning, they show no interest in joining our Confederation." In the back of the chamber, younger council members whispered among themselves. They had grown up believing the Confederation was invincible. The idea that a single species could challenge them was terrifying. On Earth, Director Sam Mitchell was having similar concerns, but from the opposite perspective. His global intelligence agency had been studying the alien visitors, and what they found was not encouraging. "The Confederation isn't what they claim to be," he told President Lara Davis during a classified briefing. "They're not peacekeepers. They're conquerors who use pretty words." President Davis leaned forward. "Explain." "Every species they've guided has been technologically suppressed," Sam continued. "Their populations are controlled. Their military forces are disbanded. They're not members of a confederation. They're subjects of an empire." The president's face went pale. "And they want to do the same to us?" "They expected to," Sam said, "but we're not cooperating with their plans." Agent Julie Hayes had been monitoring alien communications from a hidden facility in Colorado. Her team had broken the alien encryption codes weeks ago, but they had kept it secret. Now she was glad they had. "The aliens are panicking," she reported to her supervisor. "They're using terms like apex predator species and galactic destabilizer when they talk about us." Her supervisor, Agent Tony Martinez, frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means they're scared," Julie said. "Really scared. They're talking about humanity like we're some kind of monster that just woke up." The fear was not without reason. The aliens had designed their entire system around being the most advanced species in the galaxy. They had better technology, larger fleets, and more experience. But humans were challenging all of those advantages. Back on Luna Base, the situation was getting worse. The aliens had requested a cultural exchange where they would demonstrate their advanced weapons. Ambassador Helen Carter had agreed, thinking it would be educational. Commander Tony Baker was in charge of the demonstration. He watched as the aliens set up their most powerful weapon, a plasma cannon that could destroy a small moon. "This is the pinnacle of Confederation military technology," Thrindak announced proudly. "It represents thousands of years of development." The weapon fired at a test target, vaporizing it completely. The alien delegation smiled with satisfaction. "Impressive," Tony said politely. "Would you like to see one of our defensive systems?" The aliens agreed, expecting to see primitive human technology. Instead, Tony activated a shield generator that made the plasma blast look like a flashlight. The alien weapon fired again, this time at the human shield. The plasma hit the barrier and simply disappeared, absorbed harmlessly by the human technology dot. The alien delegation stared in shock. Their most powerful weapon had been neutralized effortlessly. "How is that possible?" Threndak whispered. Tony shrugged. "Basic energy manipulation. We developed it about 10 years ago." The aliens realized they had made a terrible mistake. The demonstration was supposed to show human inferiority. Instead, it had revealed human superiority. Intelligence. Officer Beth Turner was monitoring alien communications when she intercepted something that made her blood run cold. The Confederation leadership was discussing military options. "Fleet mobilization authorized," the message read. "Prepare for pacification protocols. Species designation, priority threat." Beth immediately called her supervisor. "Sir, the aliens are preparing for war. They're mobilizing their fleets under the pretense of a routine patrol. On Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan received the intelligence report and began preparing humanity's defenses. But she had a problem. Human military doctrine was based on fighting other humans, not alien invaders. We need to assume they have capabilities we don't know about, she told her staff. Prepare for the worst-case scenario. The worst-case scenario was a galactic empire with thousands of species. Deciding that humanity was too dangerous to exist, that Dr. Alex Green was working late in his laboratory when he made a discovery that changed everything. He had been studying ancient human artifacts found on various worlds, trying to understand their origin. "This can't be right," he muttered, looking at his translation of an ancient text. "It says these artifacts are from the great human empire that ruled the galaxy 12,000 years ago." He ran the translation program again, but the result was the same. The artifacts were not from unknown aliens. They were from ancient humans. Alex called his research partner, Dr. Sarah Kim. "Sarah, you need to see this. I think humans have been in space much longer than we thought." Sarah arrived within an hour and looked at the evidence. "If this is true, then we're not newcomers to the galaxy. We're returning to it." The implications were staggering. If humans had once ruled the galaxy, what happened to them? Where did they go? And why did modern humans have no memory of their ancient empire? More importantly, if humans had been that powerful before, what were they capable of now? The answers began to emerge from archaeological sites around the solar system. Ancient human technology was buried on Luna, Mars, and several asteroids. The technology was incredibly advanced, far beyond anything humans or aliens currently possess. Dr. Peter Clark, leading the archaeological team on Luna, made the most disturbing discovery. The ancient humans didn't die out, he reported. They deliberately shut down their technology and withdrew from the galaxy. "Why would they do that?" asked his assistant. "I don't know," Peter said. But the shutdown was voluntary and controlled. They left detailed records about how to reactivate everything. The records were like an instruction manual for galactic domination. They contained technology that could reshape planets, weapons that could destroy solar systems, and defensive systems that could protect entire star clusters. As news of the discoveries spread, both humans and aliens began to understand the truth. Humanity was not a young species stumbling into the galaxy. They were the descendants of the galaxy's former masters, and they were starting to remember who they were. The Confederation had not discovered a primitive species to control. They had awakened something that had been sleeping for thousands of years. On Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vex Thara received the final intelligence report about the human discoveries. Her hands shook as she read about the ancient human empire and their advanced technology. "Send word to all Confederation fleets," she ordered. "Maximum alert status. We are no longer dealing with a young species. We are facing the return of the galaxy's former rulers." But it was too late. The ancient human systems were already beginning to activate. Across the galaxy, forgotten human worlds were coming back to life. The descendants of the great human empire were remembering their heritage. The galaxy was about to change hands once again. Dr. Peter Clark stood in the ancient chamber beneath Luna's surface, staring at technology that should not exist. The walls were covered with symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. Complex machines hummed with power that had been dormant for thousands of years. "The carbon dating confirms it," his assistant, Dr. Maria Santos, said quietly. "This facility is over 12,000 years old, but the technology is still functional." Peter touched one of the control panels, and it came to life under his hand. Information flowed across the screen in ancient human text that somehow seemed familiar. "It's like it's waiting for us," he whispered. "Like it knows we're human." On Mars, Professor Linda Shaw was making an even more disturbing discovery. She had been studying human genetic samples from volunteers when she noticed something strange. "Run the test again," she told her lab technician, Dr. James Wong. "I've run it 5 times, Professor," James replied. "The results are consistent. Every human carries dormant genetic markers that match the ancient DNA samples from the archaeological sites." Linda stared at the data. "What does that mean?" "It means we're not just descendants of the ancient humans," James said. "We are the ancient humans. The genetic modifications they made to themselves are still in our DNA, just waiting to be activated." The activation was already beginning. Military personnel who had been exposed to the ancient technology were showing enhanced abilities. Sergeant Joe Martinez, stationed at the Luna Base archaeological site, found that his reflexes were twice as fast as normal. "I can see everything," he told his commanding officer. "It's like time is moving slower." Corporal Diane Foster, working in the Mars facility, discovered she could understand the ancient technology instinctively. "I don't know how I know this," she explained, "but I can operate these machines like I've been using them my whole life." The changes were spreading. Humans who came into contact with the ancient technology found their dormant abilities awakening. Enhanced strength, faster thinking, improved senses. They were becoming what their ancestors had been. The Confederation was watching these developments with growing terror. High Counselor Vex Thara called an emergency session of the War Council. "The humans are not evolving," she announced to the assembled military leaders. "They are remembering. Our intelligence suggests they are the same species that once ruled the galaxy." General Thakmer, the Confederation's supreme military commander, scoffed. "Impossible. The ancient empire fell thousands of years ago. These humans are primitives from a backwater world." "The evidence says otherwise," Vex Thara replied coldly. "Their technology is advancing at an impossible rate. Their genetic structure is changing, and ancient defense systems throughout the galaxy are responding to their presence." She was right. On forgotten worlds across the galaxy, automated systems were coming online. Planets that had been empty for millennia were suddenly protected by energy shields that the Confederation could not penetrate. Fleet Admiral Rick Thompson was coordinating Earth's defense when the first Confederation attack came. It was disguised as a peacekeeping mission, But everyone knew it was an invasion. 12 Confederation fleets approaching from multiple vectors, reported Captain Sandra Lee from the command center. They're taking positions around the solar system. Admiral Thompson activated the defense protocols that had been hidden since. First contact. All units, implement Plan Alpha. Show them what we've really been building. The human ships that emerged from hiding were not the simple vessels the aliens had seen before. They were sleek, powerful, and equipped with technology that made the Confederation fleets look ancient. General Carroll Watson, commanding the Colonial Defense Forces, received similar reports from human settlements throughout the galaxy. The aliens are attacking all human colonies simultaneously, she reported, but our defenses are holding. The Confederation had expected an easy victory. Human technology was supposedly inferior. Human military forces were supposedly small. They were wrong on both counts. Commander Greg Davis, stationed on the frontier world of New Texas, watched as his defensive systems automatically activated. But look at those readouts. We're not just defending ourselves. We're dominating them. The ancient human defense network was awakening across the galaxy. Automated systems that had been dormant for 12,000 years were recognizing the genetic signatures of their creators' descendants. On Earth, Dr. Matt Turner was analyzing the data from the archaeological sites when he made the most important discovery of all. The ancient records contained the truth about humanity's past. The great human empire didn't fall, he announced to the Emergency Council. It withdrew, voluntarily. President Laura Davis leaned forward. What do you mean? The ancient humans realized that galactic domination was making them stagnant, Matt explained. They were so powerful that they had no challenges left. So they made a choice. They shut down their empire, scattered their people, and went into hiding. Why? To let the galaxy develop naturally, while they rediscovered what it meant to be. Human, Matt said. They wanted to return to their roots, to remember why they had become great in the first place. The plan had worked perfectly. Humanity had spent thousands of years developing art, culture, philosophy, and science without the burden of ruling the galaxy. They had become more human, not less. But now the galaxy needed them again. The Confederation had created a stagnant empire where innovation was discouraged and individual species were suppressed. It was exactly what the ancient humans had wanted to avoid. The final battle began when the Confederation's main fleet attacked Earth directly. High Counselor Vexthara herself led the assault, determined to destroy the human threat before it could spread. All ships target the human homeworld, she commanded. End this before it begins. But as the Confederation fleet approached Earth, something unprecedented happened. The planet's ancient defenses activated automatically. A shield of pure energy surrounded the world, protecting it from any attack. More than that, the ancient human capital ship emerged from its hiding place at the galaxy's core. The massive vessel was larger than entire Confederation fleets, and it was heading straight for Earth. Admiral Haight Sullivan watched in amazement as the ancient ship took position between Earth and the attacking fleet. It's protecting us, she whispered. After 12,000 years, it's still protecting us. The Confederation fleet fired everything they had at the ancient ship. Their weapons were absorbed harmlessly by shields that had been designed to withstand attacks from entire star systems. Then the ancient ship responded. A single pulse of energy disabled the entire Confederation fleet without destroying them. The aliens found themselves floating helplessly in space, their weapons offline, their ships powerless. It was not a massacre. It was a demonstration. The ancient humans had returned, and they were more powerful than ever. High Counselor Vexthara stared at the massive human ship in defeat. We have awakened something that should have stayed sleeping, she said quietly, but she was wrong. Humanity had not been sleeping. They had been growing, learning, and preparing for this moment. The galaxy's former rulers had returned, and they were ready to reclaim their place among the stars. The age of the Confederation was ending. The age of humanity was beginning again. President Lara Davis stood on the bridge of the ancient human capital ship, looking out at the stars through windows that had seen the birth and death of civilizations. The massive vessel had emerged from the galaxy's core after 12,000 years of waiting, and now it served as the symbol of humanity's return to galactic prominence. The ship recognizes you as the legitimate leader of the human species, explained the artificial intelligence that had maintained the vessel through the long centuries. The AI spoke through Dr. Emily Watson, who had become its primary interface with modern humanity. It has been waiting for this moment. Lara felt the weight of history on her shoulders. She was not just the president of Earth anymore. She was the leader of a species that had once ruled the galaxy and was now reclaiming its place among the stars. The bridge was filled with representatives from both human and alien worlds. The Galactic Assembly had been reformed, but this time it would be different. This time it would be based on cooperation, not domination. High Counselor Vexthara stood nearby, her head bowed in respect. The proud alien leader who had once threatened humanity now served as an advisor in the new galactic government. The Confederation's rule is over, she said quietly. We accept humanity's leadership. But Lara shook her head. No, there will be no more rulers, no more empires. A galaxy belongs to all of us. Secretary of State Dan Roberts was negotiating the new galactic charter with representatives from hundreds of species. The document would establish the principles of the new order: equality, cooperation, and mutual respect. Every species will have a voice, he explained to the assembled delegates. Every world will have the right to self-determination. There will be no more guidance from above. The alien delegates listened with expressions of wonder and fear. They had lived under the Confederation's rule for so long that they had forgotten what freedom felt like. Captain Tim Johnson commanded the first mixed human-alien crew aboard the redesigned Starship Enterprise. The integration was challenging, but it was working. Humans and aliens were learning to work together as equals. Set course for the Andromeda sector, he ordered. We have new worlds to explore. His first officer, former Confederation Commander Krixtall, acknowledged the order. The alien who had once seen humans as primitives now served proudly under human leadership. The unknown regions await us, Captain, Krixtall said. Together, we will discover what lies beyond the known galaxy. The transformation was not easy. Many Confederation species had been oppressed for so long that they did not know how to be free. Human advisors worked with local leaders to help them build new governments and societies. Dr. Kevin Walsh established the first interspecies university on the world of Nexus Prime. Students from dozens of species learned together, sharing knowledge and culture. Education is the key to lasting peace, he told his mixed classes. When we understand each other, we cannot fear each other. The ancient human AI, speaking through Dr. Emily Watson, revealed the true history of the galaxy. The great human empire had not been cruel or oppressive. It had been a golden age of exploration and discovery. But power corrupts, the AI explained. Our ancestors realized they were becoming what they had fought against. They chose to withdraw rather than become tyrants. The withdrawal had been planned and executed over several centuries. The ancient humans had scattered their people across the galaxy, erasing their own history and technology. They had wanted their descendants to rediscover greatness through struggle and growth. They succeeded, the AI concluded. Modern humanity is stronger and wiser than the ancient empire ever was. The proof was in how humans handled their return to power. Instead of seeking revenge against the Confederation, they offered partnership. Instead of imposing their will, They encouraged diversity. Ambassador John Carter worked with former enemy commander Kriegstall to establish the first joint human-alien colony. The world of New Harmony was a testament to what cooperation could achieve. This planet was uninhabitable 5 years ago, John explained to visiting dignitaries. Now it supports 3 million inhabitants from 12 different species. The terraforming technology that made New Harmony possible was a fusion of human innovation and alien knowledge. Neither species could have achieved it alone. Children born on New Harmony grew up speaking multiple languages and understanding multiple cultures. They were the first generation of true galactic citizens. The military transformation was equally dramatic. The Confederation's massive fleets were disbanded, replaced by smaller, mixed-species exploration and defense forces. Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded the new Galactic Defense Force, which included ships and crews from every member species. Their mission was not conquest, but protection. "We will defend the weak and explore the unknown," she announced at the force's inaugural ceremony. "We will be guardians, not conquerors." The economic changes were revolutionary. The Confederation had controlled trade and technology, keeping member species dependent. The new system encouraged innovation and competition. Dr. Lisa Grant established the Galactic Research Institute, where scientists from all species worked together on breakthrough projects. The Institute's first success was a new form of faster-than-light travel that made exploring distant galaxies possible. "Science knows no species boundaries," she told her diverse research teams. "Knowledge belongs to everyone." The Cultural Renaissance was perhaps the most important change. For thousands of years, the Confederation had suppressed individual cultures in favor of uniformity. Now, each species was free to express its unique heritage. Art galleries on every world displayed works from dozens of different species. Music that blended human melodies with alien harmonies filled concert halls. Literature that explored universal themes through different perspectives became popular across the galaxy. Engineer Maria Lopez led the project to restore damaged worlds that had suffered under Confederation rule. Her teams used advanced human technology, combined with alien knowledge, to heal planets that had been strip-mined or polluted. "Every world deserves a chance to flourish," she said as she watched forests grow on a planet that had been barren for centuries. "We're not just rebuilding. We're making things better than they ever were." The ancient human facilities throughout the galaxy were converted into schools and research centers. The technology that had once been used for war was now dedicated to peaceful purposes. Dr. Peter Clark, who had discovered the first ancient facility on Luna, became the director of the Archaeological Preservation Society. His mission was to protect and study the remnants of the old empire while ensuring they were used wisely. "The past teaches us," he explained to his students, "but it should not control us. We must learn from our ancestors' mistakes and build a better future." The transformation extended to the smallest details of daily life. Trade routes that had once carried tribute to the Confederation capital now connected free worlds in a network of mutual benefit. Children who had grown up under Confederation rule learned new concepts like democracy, individual rights, and personal freedom. For many species, these ideas were revolutionary. General Frank Williams established the Galactic Peacekeeping Academy, where representatives from all species learned conflict resolution and diplomacy. The Academy's motto was simple: strength through understanding. "War should always be the last option," he taught his diverse classes. "A wise leader finds ways to solve problems without violence." The religious and philosophical changes were equally profound. The Confederation had promoted a single official belief system. The new galactic order celebrated spiritual diversity. Ambassador Helen Carter organized the first Galactic Interfaith Council, bringing together religious leaders from hundreds of species. Their discussions led to new understandings about the nature of consciousness, and the meaning of existence. Every species seeks the same fundamental truths, she observed. We just express them in different ways. The economic prosperity that followed the changes surprised everyone. When species were free to innovate and compete, the entire galaxy benefited. New technologies, new art forms, and new ways of thinking emerged constantly. Captain Nancy Bell commanded one of the new exploration vessels that pushed into uncharted regions of space. Her mixed crew discovered dozens of new worlds and several new species. A galaxy is much larger and more diverse than we ever imagined, she reported. Every day brings new wonders. The new species they encountered were treated as equals from the moment of first contact. There were no integration protocols or guidance periods. They were simply welcomed into the galactic community as partners. Dr. Chris Johnson's medical research benefited from this diversity. Each species contributed unique knowledge about biology, healing, and life itself. Diseases that had plagued individual species for millennia were cured through cooperative research. Life finds infinite ways to express itself, he mused while studying samples from a newly discovered species. Our diversity is our greatest strength. The ancient human AI gradually transferred its knowledge to the new generation of galactic citizens. It taught them about the dangers of power and the importance of humility. Your ancestors chose to give up their empire because they understood a fundamental truth, the AI explained through Dr. Emily Watson. True strength comes no.
The stars shone brightly against the black canvas of space as the scout vessel Pathfinder dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Lieutenant Sam Carter gazed through the main viewport at Proxima Centauri, Earth's first successful colony planet. Something was wrong. Very wrong. "No response to hails, sir," said Communications Officer Lisa Gray. Her fingers moved quickly across her console. "I've tried all channels. Nothing but static." Sam frowned. The colony had gone silent 3 days ago. Earth Command had sent them to investigate, expecting a simple communications malfunction. But the eerie silence and lack of orbital traffic suggested something far worse. "Take us down, Danny," Sam ordered the pilot. "Standard approach pattern. Everyone stay alert." The Pathfinder descended through wispy clouds, sensors scanning the colony's main settlement below. 5,000 people lived here, or had lived here. As they dropped lower, the crew fell silent. The buildings stood damaged or crushed. No movement, no signs of life. "My God," whispered Medical Officer Ben Wood. "What happened to them?" Sam swallowed hard. "Land us at the edge of the settlement, Danny. Away team with me. Full environmental suits and weapons ready." Minutes later, Sam led his team through the ruined colony. The streets were empty. Doors hung open on homes and businesses. It looked like people had tried to run. But from what? "Sir, over here," called Security Chief Maya Rogers. She pointed to strange crystal-like structures growing from the ground. They glowed with a faint blue light and seemed to pulse like something alive. "Don't touch them," Sam ordered. "Ben, what are these things?" Ben scanned the structures with his handheld device. "Unknown, sir. Not registering as any material in our database. But they're growing. And they're giving off energy readings unlike anything I've seen." Sam took pictures to send back to Earth. As they moved deeper into the colony, they found the first bodies. Colonists frozen in their final moments, faces locked in terror. Some appeared partially dissolved, as if something had begun to consume them. "We need to gather whatever data we can and leave," Sam said, fighting to keep his voice steady. "Something wiped out 5,000 people. It could still be here." The team collected samples, downloaded colony computer logs, and recorded everything they saw. The story began to piece together from fragmented security footage. 3 days ago, something massive had appeared in the sky. Not a natural disaster, a ship. The footage showed only glimpses, a dark shape blotting out the stars, strange lights, and then chaos as colonists tried to escape. As they worked, Engineer Pete Walsh's voice came urgently through their comms. "Lieutenant, something just entered the system. Something big, and it's headed straight for the planet. Everyone back to the ship. Now," Sam ordered. They ran, the ground shaking beneath their feet as a shadow fell over the landscape. Sam looked up and felt his blood turn cold. A massive object blocked out the sun. A ship larger than anything humans had built, its surface covered in the same crystal-like material they'd found growing from the ground. The Pathfinder's engines roared to life as the crew scrambled aboard. Danny pulled the ship up sharply, accelerating toward space as the alien vessel released smaller craft that pursued them. "Maximum speed. Get us out of here," Sam shouted. The Pathfinder shuddered as energy beams lanced past them. One grazed their hull, alarms blaring throughout the ship. They broke atmosphere, engines straining as Danny pushed them to their limit. Preparing for jump, Danny called out, his voice tight with fear. The stars stretched, and they escaped, but not before their cameras captured clear images of their pursuer. 2 weeks later, intelligence analyst Olivia Reed stared at those images in a secure room deep under Earth Command headquarters. She compared them to ancient cave paintings found across Earth, warnings from prehistoric humans about visitors from the stars. The paintings had been dismissed as myths. Now Olivia knew better. The visitors had a name in the oldest human languages, the Harvesters, and they had returned. 6 months passed after the Proxima Centauri disaster. Earth's governments united under a single banner for the first time in human history. Fear was a powerful force for change. Diane Clark worked late in her lab at the Lunar Research Base. At 29, she was one of the brightest engineers Earth had to offer. Her experimental shield technology had become Earth's top defense priority. Just a few more adjustments, she muttered to herself, fingers flying over the control panel. The lab door slid open. Her supervisor, Dr. Ellis, rushed in. His face was pale. "Turn on the news," he said. "Now." Diane activated the wall screen. A news anchor spoke with a shaking voice as images showed Earth's orbital defense platforms activating. Repeating, all citizens should proceed to designated shelter areas. This is not a drill. Alien vessels have been detected at the edge of our solar system. Diane's heart pounded. How many ships? "Hundreds," Dr. Ellis whispered. "They arrived just minutes ago." Alarms blared throughout the base. Outside the lab windows, Diane saw crews rushing to battle stations. The lunar base housed Earth's last line of defense, a fleet of warships that had been built in secret since the Proxima incident. Back on Earth, Admiral Joe Martinez stood in the United Earth Defense Command Center. Holographic displays showed the approaching alien fleet. They had sent a transmission days earlier. Despite the best efforts of linguists, only one phrase had been translated: "Surrender or perish." "All defense platforms at ready status," reported an officer. "Civilian evacuations to underground shelters at 60%. Joe nodded grimly. "Deploy the fleet. All ships to defensive positions." The battle began at Mars. Earth's ships were the best humans had ever built, but they were toys compared to the alien vessels. The aliens, who called themselves the Voidborn in their transmissions, used weapons that seemed to bend reality itself. From the lunar base, Diane watched in horror as the first line of Earth's defense fell in less than an hour. The Voidborn ships moved methodically, like surgeons cutting away diseased tissue. "We need to evacuate," Dr. Ellis said. "The shields aren't ready." 5 more minutes, Diane insisted, making final connections in her prototype. "We can't run now." Near Mars, Commander Frank Nelson watched his fleet dying around him. His ship, the Valor, had taken heavy damage. Half his crew was dead. But he had noticed something. When his weapons hit a certain spot on one of the smaller Voidborn ships, it had actually damaged it. "All power to forward guns," he ordered, "and plot a collision course." His remaining crew looked at him with understanding. There would be no escape. "For Earth," Frank said simply. The Valor accelerated toward the damaged Voidborn ship, weapons firing at the vulnerable spot. Moments before impact, Frank sent a tight beam transmission to the fleet with his discovery. Then the Valor rammed into the alien vessel. Both ships erupted in a massive explosion. When the light faded, the Voidborn ship was destroyed, the first alien vessel humanity had managed to take down. On the lunar base, alarms blared as Voidborn ships approached. Diane's prototype shield generator hummed to life, creating a bubble of energy around the main research section. "Evacuate everyone to the protected area," she shouted. "The shield will hold." She didn't know if that was true, but people needed hope. On Earth, cities burned as Voidborn ships began their assault. Millions fled to underground shelters built during the fearful months after Proxima. Admiral Martinez coordinated what remained of Earth's defenses, using Frank Nelson's discovery to focus attacks on the Voidborn weak spots. It wasn't enough. By day's end, Earth's orbital defenses had collapsed. The remnants of the space fleet scattered, hiding in the outer solar system. On the lunar base, Diane's shield held against the initial attack, protecting thousands of refugees. The Voidborn message played again on all frequencies: surrender or perish. But even as Earth fell, something unexpected happened. The Voidborn seemed surprised by humanity's resistance. A captured communication revealed a message between alien ships. "The humans fight differently. They do not break like the others." Humanity had lost the battle, but in that moment of defiance, the first seeds of hope were planted. 5 years passed since Earth fell to the Voidborn. The blue planet was no longer the same. Massive mining operations scared its surface. Strange crystal towers rose from the ruins of once great cities, and humans were hunted, captured, and taken to processing facilities for unknown purposes. But humanity had not surrendered. On Titan, Saturn's largest moon, Dr. Laura Wilson worked in a hidden laboratory carved into the icy surface. Around her, a team of scientists studied pieces of Voidborn technology salvaged from destroyed ships. "Look at this," Laura said, pointing to a screen showing microscopic scans. "The material reacts to the radiation. It's breaking down." Her assistant, Ryan, leaned closer. "Which frequency was that?" "Gamma radiation, but in a very specific pattern." Laura's eyes shone with excitement. "We finally found their weakness." Across the solar system, hidden bases sheltered the remains of humanity. Some were former mining outposts. Others were built into asteroids. Each held a piece of the resistance. Captain Erica Powell commanded the stealth ship Defiance, one of the few human vessels that could slip past Voidborn patrols. Her mission: deliver supplies to resistance cells and gather intelligence. Today, she hovered near a Voidborn communication relay disguised as an asteroid. "We're in position," her pilot said. "Starting data intercept." Erica nodded. "Keep us dark. We can't afford to be spotted." The ship's systems silently copied transmissions passing through the relay. Most were in the Voidborn language, but some used translation matrices for communicating with other species. Erica's eyes widened as she read the intercepted messages. They're not just on Earth. They've conquered dozens of worlds across the galaxy. More shocking was a message about humans. The Earth species shows unusual resistance to neural control. Continue genetic sampling to identify the cause. On Earth, former history professor Alan Brooks led a different kind of resistance. His network moved through the ruins of cities, helping survivors escape to hidden spaceports where they could flee to the outer system bases. Tonight, Alan guided a group of 20 people through the sewers beneath Old New York. Above them, Voidborn patrol ships searched with scanning beams. "Stay low, stay quiet," he whispered to the group. Among them were children who had never known a world without the alien invaders. A woman named Karen helped a young boy who had fallen behind. "Almost there," she encouraged him. "Just a little further." They reached a hidden door that led to an abandoned subway tunnel. Inside waited 3 resistance fighters with weapons and supplies. "The ship leaves in 2 hours. one fighter told Alan. "We got word from Captain Powell. She found something big." Later that night, resistance leaders gathered via secure communication channels. Captain Powell shared what she had learned. "The Voidborn aren't just conquerors," she explained. "They're collectors. They harvest resources, technology, and even genetic material from species across the galaxy." Dr. Laura Wilson added her discovery about the radiation weakness. "It's not much, but it's the first real advantage we found." Alan Brooks shared information from a captured Voidborn data device. "Most species they conquer surrender quickly and live as slaves. But there's something different about humans. We're resistant to some kind of mind control they use on others." The most surprising news came from Captain Powell's latest intercept. "Other species are watching us," she said. The translation matrix picked up communications between enslaved worlds. "They're talking about the human resistance. Some are even starting to question their Voidborn masters." For the first time in 5 years, the resistance leaders felt a glimmer of real hope. Humanity was not just fighting for Earth anymore. Their struggle had become something more, a spark that might ignite across the galaxy. As the meeting ended, Dr. Wilson made a simple but powerful statement. "We're not just survivors anymore. We're becoming a real threat to them." The resistance had a new purpose. Humanity would not just endure, it would fight back. And the galaxy was beginning to take notice. 10 years had passed since the Voidborn took Earth. The human resistance had grown stronger and more organized. Small victories gave people hope, but everyone knew they needed something bigger to truly fight back. Colonel Jack Howard stood in the shadows of an ice canyon on Europa, Jupiter's moon. 50 of his best soldiers waited behind him, weapons ready. Ahead stood a small Voidborn research station, its crystal towers glowing against the dark sky. "Remember the plan," Jack said into his comm. "Team 1 creates the distraction. Team 2 secures the data. Team 3 gets the prisoners. 20 minutes, then we're gone." The attack began with precision. Team 1 fired missiles at the station's power generators. As alarms blared and Voidborn drones rushed to respond, Teams 2 and 3 moved in from different directions. Jack led Team 2 into the heart of the station. They fought through several Voidborn guards, tall, pale creatures with too many limbs. The soldiers' weapons were loaded with special radiation ammunition developed by Dr. Wilson. It worked better than anything they'd used before. In the central chamber, they found what they were looking for: the main data core. A technician named Ed quickly connected their devices and began downloading files. 5 minutes, Ed said, working fast. Jack stood guard, watching the alien symbols flash across the screen. He didn't understand them, but he knew this information could change everything. On the other side of the station, Team 3 broke into the prisoner cells. They found 20 humans in bad condition, thin, weak, with strange marks on their skin. Among them was a teenage boy named Kevin Davis. Unlike the others, Kevin seemed alert, his eyes clear and focused. "We're with the resistance," said Maya, the team leader. "We're getting you out." As they moved the prisoners toward the exit, Kevin stopped by a control panel. Without hesitation, he placed his hand on it. The alien symbols responded to his touch. "How did you do that?" Maya asked, shocked. Kevin looked confused. I just knew how." The raid ended successfully. All teams made it back to their hidden ships with the data, the prisoners, and minimal casualties. As they flew back to their base, hidden in the asteroid belt, Jack studied the young boy who could somehow interact with Voidborn technology. At the base, Dr. Laura Wilson reviewed the stolen data with growing excitement. "This changes everything," she told the resistance leaders. "The Voidborn aren't a single species. They're a hive mind controlling drone bodies, all directed by ships called Nexus vessels." She displayed images showing the massive command ships at the center of Voidborn fleets. "Destroy a Nexus, and all the drones it controls become useless," she explained. Even more important was what they learned about why Earth was targeted. "It wasn't random," Laura said. "Humans possess genetic markers that make us dangerous to them. We're naturally resistant to their mind control, and they see us as a threat. Meanwhile, in the medical section, doctors examined the rescued prisoners. Most had been subjects in brutal experiments. But Kevin Davis was special. Tests showed his DNA had been altered by the Voidborn. They were trying to understand what makes humans different, the chief doctor explained. In Kevin's case, they accidentally gave him the ability to interface with their technology. A plan began to form. They would build their own fleet using reverse-engineered Voidborn technology, combined with Dr. Wilson's radiation weapons. They called it Project Prometheus, after the figure from myth who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humans. Kevin would be crucial to their success. His ability to interface with alien systems might let them overcome the Voidborn's technological advantage. As the Resistance prepared for their boldest move yet, a message arrived from Captain Powell's Defiance. Resistance cells are forming on other worlds. We're not alone anymore. The tide was beginning to turn. Humanity wasn't just surviving. It was becoming the galaxy's best hope for freedom. 14 years after the invasion, humanity was ready to strike back. Hidden in the rings of Saturn, the Resistance had built their first real warship, the Avenger. It wasn't as large as a Voidborn vessel, but it carried weapons designed to exploit the enemy's weaknesses. Captain Greg Morrison stood on the bridge, looking at his crew. They were a mix of soldiers, engineers, and survivors who had trained for this moment for years. "All systems check complete, Captain," reported his first officer, Liley. "We're ready." Greg nodded. "Begin Operation First Strike." The Avenger moved silently from its hiding place, followed by 5 smaller attack ships. Their target, a Voidborn mining fleet harvesting resources from the asteroid belt. It was smaller than most Voidborn forces, making it the perfect first target. In the ship's special operations room, Kevin Davis sat surrounded by equipment. Now 19 years old, Kevin had spent years developing his unique ability to interface with Voidborn systems. "I'm ready, Captain," Kevin said through the comm. "Once we're in range, I can begin disrupting their communications." The human fleet approached the asteroid belt. The Voidborn ships, busy with their mining operations, didn't notice them until they were close. "Now, Kevin," Greg ordered. Kevin placed his hands on the alien-human hybrid console before him. His eyes closed in concentration. The Voidborn ships suddenly began to move erratically, their coordinated actions falling apart. "All ships, attack pattern Delta," Greg commanded. "Target their weak points." The Avenger fired its main weapon, a cannon that emitted the specific radiation frequency Dr. Wilson had discovered. The beam hit the largest Voidborn ship, causing its crystalline surface to crack and break. The smaller human vessels attacked the confused Voidborn ships from multiple directions. For the first time, the aliens seemed unprepared, unable to coordinate their defense properly thanks to Kevin's disruption. "They're trying to adapt," Kevin warned, sweat beading on his forehead. "I can't hold them much longer." "All ships, concentrate fire on the command vessel," Greg ordered. The human fleet focused all weapons on the largest Voidborn ship. Its surface glowed and cracked under the combined assault. Finally, with a blinding flash, the alien vessel broke apart. Without their command ship, the remaining Voidborn vessels became disorganized. Some tried to flee, others continued fighting but with reduced effectiveness. The human fleet methodically destroyed them all. When it was over, the asteroid belt was clear of enemy forces. The first major battle against the Voidborn had ended in human victory. "Send the message," Greg told his communications officer. A simple signal was broadcast throughout the solar system on frequencies the Resistance used. "First strike successful. The fire of Prometheus burns bright." News of the victory spread quickly. On Earth, where billions still lived under Voidborn rule, people began to resist more openly. Small uprisings broke out in processing centers. Resistance cells grew bolder in their attacks. The Voidborn response was swift and brutal. More ships arrived in the solar system. Patrols increased. Punishments for resistance became more severe. But something was different about their behavior now. There was an urgency that hadn't been there before. Intelligence Officer Melissa Young, monitoring voidborne communications from a hidden base on Mars, noticed something important. They're calling for reinforcements from other systems, she told the Resistance leadership during an emergency meeting. And the messages sound afraid. Further analysis revealed something even more significant. The Voidborn were pulling forces from other conquered worlds to deal with the human threat. They see us as more dangerous than any of their other subjects, Admiral Martinez said. That means those worlds now have fewer Voidborn forces controlling them. The implications were clear. Humanity's fight wasn't just about Earth anymore. By forcing the Voidborn to concentrate their forces in the solar system, they were creating opportunities for resistance on other worlds. For the first time in 14 years, hope wasn't just a distant dream. It was becoming a reality that spread across the stars. 2 years had passed since humanity's first victory against the Voidborn. The resistance had grown stronger, with more ships and weapons. They no longer hid in the shadows. Instead, they attacked Voidborn targets across the solar system, then disappeared before the enemy could respond. Lieutenant Paul Adams led a small team on a mission to Mars. Their target, a Voidborn communications hub built in the ruins of an old human colony. The team moved quickly across the red landscape, wearing suits that hid them from Voidborn sensors. Almost there, Paul whispered through his comm. Remember, we need to download their data, then plant the charges. 15 minutes, then we're gone. They'd reached the facility, a tall crystal tower surrounded by smaller buildings. The team split up, with Paul and 2 others heading for the main control room. They encountered few guards. The Voidborn had grown stretched thin, trying to maintain control across the solar system while fighting the growing human resistance. In the control room, Paul connected a device to the alien computer. It began copying data while his team set explosives. "Sir," called one of his soldiers, "something's moving in the storage area." Paul drew his weapon and moved cautiously toward the back of the room. Behind a panel, he found something unexpected. A hidden compartment containing what appeared to be prisoners, but they weren't human. The creatures were tall and reptilian, with scaled skin and large eyes. They wore simple clothes and restraints on their wrists. They watched Paul with a mixture of fear and hope. One of them stepped forward and spoke in broken English. "You are humans, the fighters." Paul stared in shock. "Yes. Who are you?" "I am Krell. We came. Watch humans fight. We were caught." Before Paul could respond, alarms blared. Their presence had been detected. "Grab the data and move out," Paul ordered his team. He looked at the alien prisoners. "You're coming with us." They fought their way out of the facility, the Krell helping as best they could despite their restraints. One of them, stronger than the others, even managed to kill a Voidborn guard with its bare hands. Once clear, they triggered the explosives. The communications hub erupted in flames behind them as they raced to their hidden ship. Back at the Resistance base, the Krell were treated with caution but respect. Their leader, who called himself Scar, explained their purpose. "Many worlds watch humans," he told the gathered Resistance leaders. "For centuries, Voidborn rule through fear. All species surrender quickly. But humans fight. Humans win sometimes. This never happened before." Scar revealed that he and his companions were scouts from a distant star system. They had been sent to observe humanity's resistance, which had become a subject of great interest among the conquered species of the galaxy. "Others want to join fight," Scar said, "but need to know humans can be trusted, need to know humans can win." It was an opportunity the Resistance hadn't dared hope for. Allies from beyond the solar system. Engineer Diane Clark, who now led the Resistance's technology division, immediately began working with the Krell scientists. They shared knowledge about Voidborn weaknesses and technology that complemented humanity's discoveries. Meanwhile, Kevin Davis made another breakthrough. During his sessions interfacing with Voidborn technology, he discovered he could sense others like himself, humans who had been experimented on by the Voidborn and developed similar abilities. They're all over the solar system, Kevin explained to the leadership. If we can find them, rescue them, we could create a network. We could coordinate attacks without the Voidborn knowing. For the first time, the Resistance began to believe they might not just survive. They might actually win. With potential allies among the stars and a growing understanding of their enemy, humanity's fight was becoming a galactic cause. As Paul Adams watched Scar and his fellow Krell working alongside human engineers, he realized something important. The Voidborn's greatest mistake had been attacking Earth. By trying to crush humanity, they had created the spark that might eventually burn down their entire empire. 20 years had passed since the Voidborn first attacked Earth. Now, humanity was ready for its most ambitious mission yet, Operation Homecoming, the liberation of Earth. Fleet Admiral Susan Miller stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship Freedom. Around her, officers from 6 different species worked at their stations. The view screen showed hundreds of ships gathered near Jupiter, the largest fleet ever assembled to fight the Voidborn. All ships report ready, Admiral, said her first officer. Susan nodded. Send the signal. Operation Homecoming begins now. The massive fleet moved toward Earth. It included not just human vessels but ships from a dozen alien civilizations that had joined the fight against their common oppressor. On Earth, Resistance leader Alan Brooks received the coded message. For 2 decades, he had built and maintained the planet's underground resistance network. Now, millions of humans were ready to rise up when the fleet arrived. It's time, he told his lieutenants in a hidden bunker beneath the ruins of Chicago. Activate all cells. When the fleet arrives, we strike. In orbit around Earth, the Voidborn had built massive defenses. They had nearly 100 ships and orbital platforms ready to repel any attack. But they hadn't expected an assault of this scale. As the Alliance fleet approached Earth, Kevin Davis and 30 other humans with special abilities gathered in a shielded chamber aboard the Freedom. Each had been experimented on by the Voidborn and rescued by the Resistance. Together, they formed a powerful mental network. Everyone ready? Kevin asked. The others nodded. Then let's begin. They joined hands, their minds connecting through their unique abilities. Together, they reached out to the Voidborn fleet, focusing on the 3 Nexus ships that controlled all the drone vessels. The battle began with a massive exchange of fire. Alliance ships took heavy damage, but so did the Voidborn defenses. On Earth's surface, Resistance fighters emerged from hiding and attacked Voidborn bases and processing centers. The space battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed. But the tide turned when Kevin and his network succeeded in their mission. For 10 crucial minutes, they severed the connection between the Voidborn drones and their Nexus ships. In that moment of confusion, Captain Erica Powell led a strike team in 3 specially designed vessels. They slipped through the chaotic battle and docked with the main Nexus ship. Move fast, Erica ordered as her team entered the alien vessel. We have 10 minutes at most. They fought their way through confused Voidborn drones toward the ship's core. The interior was strange, pulsing with energy and organic material that seemed almost alive. In the central chamber, they found the truth that had been hidden for so long. The Voidborn weren't just a hive mind. They were beings of pure energy, using biological drones as tools to harvest resources across the galaxy. Floating in containment fields were glowing entities that directed the entire Voidborn collective. They turned their attention to the human intruders, trying to overwhelm their minds. Now, Erica shouted, fighting the mental pressure. Her team placed Dr. Wilson's special radiation devices around the chamber. As they retreated, the devices activated, releasing energy that disrupted the Voidborn entities. The team barely escaped as the chain reaction began. The Nexus ship shuddered, then exploded in a blinding flash. The destruction sent a wave of energy that cascaded through the Voidborn fleet, disrupting their coordination. Across Earth, Voidborn drones suddenly stopped functioning. Processing centers shut down. Crystal towers crumbled. In orbit, the Alliance fleet pressed their advantage, destroying the remaining enemy ships. After hours of intense fighting, Admiral Miller received the message she had waited 20 years to hear. Earth's orbit is secure. The Voidborn fleet has been destroyed. For the first time in 2 decades, Earth belonged to humans again. But the war wasn't over. The Voidborn collective had retreated, wounded but not destroyed. Yet something had fundamentally changed. The galaxy no longer lived in fear. Now the Voidborn did. 5 years had passed since Earth's liberation. The planet was healing. New cities rose from the ruins of the old. Green parks covered areas where Voidborn mining operations had scared the land. And in the night sky, ships from a dozen different worlds moved freely through Earth's orbit. Chris Bennett stood at the window of his apartment in New Denver, watching the sunrise. At 25, he had spent most of his life under Voidborn occupation. Now he wore the uniform of the Guardian Fleet, ships crewed by members of all allied species, with humans often serving as captains due to their natural resistance to Voidborn influence. Today was special. Chris had been assigned to the Alliance flagship Defiance II, commanded by the legendary Captain Erica Powell. In orbit, Chris boarded a shuttle to his new ship. The Defiance I was massive, built with technology from 6 different worlds. Its main weapon used the radiation frequency Dr. Wilson had discovered, now refined to be even more effective against Voidborn ships. On the bridge, Captain Powell greeted her new officers. "Welcome aboard," she said. "You're joining us at a historic time. The Voidborn collective has retreated to the far reaches of the galaxy, but our mission continues. We don't just defend our worlds now. We help others break free." After Earth's liberation, the Alliance had grown quickly. The Voidborn, weakened by their defeat, had been pushed back from system after system. Worlds that had lived under their control for centuries were now free. Admiral Joe Martinez, one of the few survivors from the original defense of Earth, now led diplomatic efforts. Though old and walking with a cane, he still had the commanding presence that had helped unite humanity during its darkest days. The key to defeating the Voidborn wasn't just our weapons, he told a gathering of new Guardian Fleet recruits. It was unity. For the first time in history, species from across the galaxy put aside their differences to fight a common enemy. In orbit around Earth, a massive station called Unity had been built. It housed the Interspecies Scientific Exchange, led by Dr. Laura Wilson. There, scientists from 24 worlds studied Voidborn technology and biology, seeking to understand their ancient enemy. Kevin Davis, now a leader in the Alliance, had established a training program for humans and other species with special abilities. They formed a network that could detect Voidborn activity across vast distances of space, giving early warning of any new threats. But most importantly, people throughout the galaxy no longer lived in fear. Children on 100 worlds played in sunlight rather than hiding underground. Trade routes connected civilizations that had been isolated for generations, and all of it had begun with humanity's refusal to surrender. On his first day aboard the Defiance I, Chris was assigned to the bridge. The ship was preparing for a mission to a distant star system where signs of Voidborn activity had been detected. "Ready for departure, Captain," the first officer reported. Captain Powell nodded. "Set course for the Andromeda sector. Maximum speed." As the ship accelerated away from Earth, Chris stood at his station, looking at the view screen. Stars streaked by as they entered faster than light travel. Among the bridge crew were humans, Krell, and representatives of 4 other species, all working together. Chris thought about his parents, who had died during the occupation. They hadn't lived to see this day, but they had been part of the resistance that made it possible. Their sacrifice, and the sacrifice of millions like them, had changed the course of galactic history. The galaxy had once lived in fear of the Voidborn. Now the Voidborn lived in fear of the alliance humanity had built. And as the Defiance I carried its mixed crew toward new adventures, Chris knew the greatest chapter in humanity's story wasn't their victory in war. It was what they had created from the peace that followed. A galaxy united, a galaxy free, a galaxy it would never again surrender to fear.